My name is Justin, and I'm here to share today a little bit of my testimony and what God's been doing in my life lately. I'm currently dealing with the consequences of my fourth and felony DUI, and it's been a long, crazy road, but God's been there through it all. Growing up, I was adopted into a loving Christian family, and I knew the Lord, and I had faith at a young age. And in fourth grade, I was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome, which is, for those of you who don't know, it manifests itself as tics, muscle spasms, vocalizations, the clearing of my throat, which made it very hard to concentrate in school especially, and socially, growing up. I was identified as different, a little alienated by that. I never wanted to think about myself as different or identify myself that way. I compensated for that with my personality and humor. I was the funny guy, but I was always looking for acceptance in that way. Later on, towards the end of high school, I found the party scene, and I took to that right away. It fit my personality, my loud, outgoing personality, and I found acceptance there. I had friends. I was Good Time Johnny, and I found my identity in that, and people responded to that. And I was sort of self-medicating, I guess you could say, because I found the more I drank, the less I would tic, the less that my Tourette's affected me. So I thought it was great, and I never wanted it to end. I just wanted the good times to roll on. And but it was not long before I found trouble, or trouble found me. And I was in trouble a lot throughout my drinking. 4 DUIs from that, starting pretty much right after high school on. I knew the Lord. I was very familiar with the Lord early on. I would say during my partying, though, I sort of took what I knew in the Lord and I put him in the back pocket, because I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and that's where I found my acceptance. So I took the Lord and said, "Get in the back seat," and that's when the trouble ensued. I knew the Lord through my Tourette's. It was so bad when I was younger, the full body spasms. It was like I was under attack, and I would hit myself in the chest so hard it would bruise. And I was very much unable to live normal in any way. And my parents decided that this was more than just Tourette's, it was spiritual, that I was under spiritual attack. We became familiar with spiritual warfare, and I was taken to Freedom Ministries, a church that specializes in breaking strongholds and spiritual bondage. And my parents took me there that day, and I was prayed over and said bondage-breaking prayers the whole day. And during this praying, I was twitching so hard, I was moving my chair around the room. And by the end of that day, it was like a light switch. It was like night and day. It was like I am now, like I can control it. I still have Tourette's, but I can live, School was much easier after Freedom Ministries and everything else, But anyway, back to, me still finding acceptance. I was always looked at as the weird kid from this, the kid who twitched, the kid who made funny noises, So yeah, my identity I found in drinking and partying. and I was sort of in the spotlight. I felt like I was good at it. And so a lot of trouble through it all. I saw the inside of a lot of jail cells. Through that all, in my dark times, I would always go back to the Lord. I would find him in jail again, and I'd take comfort in him. And he was always there for me. But, you know, it wasn't my first 3 DUIs, and growing up, I was dead set on continuing my ways. As soon as I was out of jail and God got me through that hard time, I was back to what I wanted to do, you know. And I thought that I had it figured out, and I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And it wasn't long before my 4th DUI. My 4th is a felony. And when I received that, I thought that life was over as I knew it. I knew that prison was a very real possibility. I knew that life was going to be a whole lot harder in every aspect with a felony. And the incredible weight of this. The first night in jail, off the street, was incredibly tough. It was the first and only time where I was broken about what I had done. I was absolutely distraught, in the darkest place I've ever been. And nothing else mattered in that moment. It was like the moment of clarity that, you know, all my friends that I wasn't willing to give up before, the drinking, the partying, nothing else mattered. In this moment, I knew that the only thing that mattered was my relationship with the Lord. And I cried out to him, you know, save me. And I have a couple of things here that I wrote on my charge papers while I was in jail that first night, just going back and describing how I felt. It was Hennepin County charge papers. I wrote, "The life that I knew is over. Everything that I know is gone. Scared and in the most pain I've ever felt, I cry out to you, Jesus, save me. Staring into the darkness, I need your strength and peace. I am on my face for you. Lord, my life is yours. Cradle me in your hands. Lord, I will trust you. I will give everything in my life to you. Everything that I've been holding back, I give up. My friends, my partying, my drinking, and all aspects of my life I give to you. For I have been reckless and foolish with my time. All myself is yours. I don't want anything else in this world but you, Lord. I'm your servant. Complete me." I wrote, "Lord, I am so scared and hopeless. I feel like I am dying." And I felt his warm hand on my back, and the words sort of creep into the back of your mind. It sounds like my own inner monologue, but I knew it didn't come from me. It said, "Justin, have confidence in me. Trust me, I have you." I took comfort in a lot of different Psalms. There was a Bible all ripped up in jail there. And I read that thing. That thing was my best friend. And Psalms 118, I was pushed back. I was about to be killed. But the Lord helped me. The Lord gives me strength. I sing about him. He has saved me. He has used that horrible pain to crush everything that was left of my heart, and he has replaced it with a new one. There is nothing left except a blank slate for God. The Lord has really punished me, but he did not let me die. Open the gates of the temple for me, and I will enter and give thanks to the Lord. And then I go on to write a bunch of other psalms that are amazing, but I don't know if we want to have time to share those. After that, I didn't know how long I'd be held in jail. I was just awaiting. I was being held on probable cause. I was waiting to go before the judge to see if I could even have bail or be released on bail. So the day came. I was brought to a holding cell with a bunch of other guys waiting for court. And I was praying constantly. I just wanted to be out and see my family and get a little bearing on what was about to go down in my life. So I was in the holding cell, and the guys that were coming back ahead of me, I was like, hey, how was it? How was the judge today? You know, is it all right? Did they lower your bail? Every guy that came back had the same story. Like, no, he ain't lowering anybody's bail. He raised mine. I was like, sweet. Lord, you gotta have me on this one. I need, just praying desperately. And, again, I felt his comfort on me. Like it was gonna be good. I went before that judge, long story short. Despite the prosecutor's arguments, he lowered my bail from $50,000 to $5,000 so I could get out for 10%, which was $500. So I was out that day on bail and released conditionally on an ankle bracelet and monitoring that I had to pay for daily until my next court date. During that summer, or this past summer, there was many things to set up, many things to get in order. My lawyer, meetings, trying to set up treatment for myself. I wanted to get into treatment. And I tried to take control of the things that I could control. And I tried to take a stand and get everything in a row. And God wasn't having any of it. He was teaching me. He used that whole time to teach me that nothing that I could do was going to work. It was feeble attempts, and that God was in control, and he was the only one. And so my attempts, I tried to line up treatment for myself in a faith-based organization for a year, a lockdown treatment. And I was like, this has got to be God's plan, It's faith-based treatment. That evaporated. Funding was given and then evaporated. It wasn't God's plan. And everything that I tried to set up just to the wind. I felt so frustrated, but I always went back to, there's nothing I can do, Lord. It's all about you. Just put it in place, Lord. I'm not in control. It was 5 months until my final court date. That night I had a dream before my court date. That night I had a dream, and it was powerful. I haven't remembered my dreams in years. I don't know if it was from drinking or partying, but I haven't remembered my dreams in years, and if I did, they were sort of meaningless. That night I dreamt that I was grappling with this guy who I thought was familiar to me, but we were I was fighting for my life with this guy, and he was yelling at me, "You haven't bled for Jesus. You haven't bled for Jesus." And I was screaming, "Yes, I have." And he said, "No, you haven't." And I woke up in a start and sweating, and I was like, what the heck was that? That's crazy. I don't know what that means. I mean, it jarred me. But I shook it off, and I got ready for court that day. And took a shower and ate breakfast and went outside to get into the taxi that I had called to take me to downtown. And I got into the taxi cab, and the cabbie was an older guy, 60s, 70, and he had a big old white mustache and a backwards baseball cap on and a brown leather Bible on the dash. And I got in, and he said, "Where to?" And I said, "The government center downtown, please." He said, "Oh, well, you're dressed pretty snazzy. What, do you work down there at the government center?" And I said, "No, I'm going to court." He said, "Oh, you caught a case, huh?" Because I had a few of those in my day. And I was like, "Oh, yeah?" And he began to explain to me how rough his life was and how the Lord changed all of it. And he goes, "Well, what are you going to court for?" And I told him about my DWIs. And I said, "This one's serious, man. It's a felony. I could be facing a lot of time." He said, "You know what? I don't think jail's a place for you. said, there's other plans for you. He said, you know, Justin, it's like you got a broken arm. He said, you're drinking and you're in trouble with the law. These are all symptoms of a deeper issue. And he goes, it's like the pain from a broken arm. The pain is just a symptom of the deep issue, which is your broken bone. And you got to mend that so your arm will be useful again. So it won't be lame, it'll be healed. This guy had some awesome insight I didn't expect it from a cabbie. But, you know, it was just like such an uplifting thing. I really enjoyed talking to this guy, and we got to court, and he sent me on my way, and I just felt great. Like, wow, that was quite the God appointment there, you know. And I went to court, and the judge sentenced me to 180 days straight time jail, with 42 months hanging over my head in prison if I screw up. She wasn't going to set a date for me. She wanted me to go right then. So they handcuffed me from court and took me into jail. It was really hard on my mom to see that, I'll tell you. But, you know, we expected to set a date, and I just turned myself in. But so I went, and like I said earlier, I've been to other jails. But this jail was different than any other place I'd ever been to. There was no joke to it. It was an old maximum security prison, and they still ran it like one. It was a 6x8 cell, and over a 20-hour lockdown day. And I was mentally preparing to be there for months, and it scared the crap out of me. I mean, I wasn't sure if I was built for, you know, handling that. So all my strength was in the Lord, you know. There was nothing that I could do, you know. And that first night in jail, in my cell, it was really hard to sleep. Everything echoes through the bars and jails, you know. And, you know, all the yelling and swearing and spitting from the other guys. I couldn't get to sleep till like 3 in the morning. But I woke up at 6:15 a.m. and everything was quiet, but I couldn't get back to sleep. I felt an urge to be comforted and fed, read the Word. And so I opened up my Bible, and without any further, you know, trying on my own or thumbing through, I opened right up to Hebrews, and I started reading in Hebrews. And I found Hebrews 12, 3 through 13, and it was like a smack between the eyes. God reveals to me what my dream meant, and what the cabbie said at the end, and everything in between is how I felt about being in jail. It's exactly what I needed to hear. Consider him who has endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. And in my dream, the guy was saying, you haven't bled for Jesus. I haven't even tried